And cycle 2, week 6, science. This is the last one for this quarter. So yay, we're almost done. These two are actually pretty fun and they're really easy. And the only thing that you have to be careful about with this one is reminding the kids not to look directly at the light for too long. I did get LED lights, so hopefully they won't get hot and they're not too bad, but they are still pretty bright. So as we walk through this, just remember to remind your kiddos not to look directly at the light. But these two experiments are on page 3 of the Van Cleve Science book, and they are numbers 3 and 4. Number 3 is cover up, and the only thing that you need for this one is a desk lamp. So I have two, and this is sitting on my handy dandy little stool over there. The only thing that you need to do on this one is what we're illustrating is why Mercury, the planet Mercury, does not cause an eclipse. So what you're going to have the kids do, you're going to turn the light on. You're going to have them stand. I am not standing 2 yards away from this thing, but I don't really want to move way back there. You'll get the idea. So you just turn the lamp on and you have them close their right eye and then hold their thumb with their eye closed in front of the lamp. And then they're going to move slowly their thumb towards their open eye. And eventually they'll get close enough to their eye that their thumb is completely covering the lamp and they can't see the light. When it's extended, they can see the light around their thumb, but the closer it gets to their eye, the less of the lamp they can see until it's completely covered up. And so the thumb blocking the light moving from the lamp towards my eye, Mercury is really, really close to the sun. And because it's close to the sun, it only blocks a small portion of the sun's light, like our thumb did when it was closer to the lamp. The shadow that is cast by Mercury is so small that it doesn't spread out far enough to fall on the earth, but it just lands in outer space. So this is why Mercury is not big enough to cause a solar eclipse. So some things that we could ask in our class as we're doing this experiment: what changes would we need to make in order for Mercury to cause an eclipse? Maybe Mercury could be bigger, maybe it would move closer. And then you can ask, would it need to move closer to the sun? Would it need to move closer to the earth? And would that change depending on if its size also changed? So those are just some kind of good discussion questions. It might be also, if you have like a small ball, maybe a tennis ball or something that you want to bring from home, it would be good to show the difference between your thumb and a tennis ball. So as you're bringing your thumb forward, how close does your thumb have to be to completely block the light? Using a tennis ball, do the same thing. That might be more a visual for the younger kids to be able to recognize what it is that you're trying to say. So that's number 3. And then number 4, experiment number 4 is called thick. And the purpose of this one is to kind of talk about Venus's atmosphere and why we can't really see the surface of the planet because of the atmosphere that surrounds it. So the only thing that we need for this experiment, every table will have a flashlight and sheets of wax paper. And what you're going to do, this one too asks you to stand about 2 yards away from the light, probably to protect your eyes. But I'm going to sit here and just set it here on my stool, and I've turned it on. So what you want the kids to do is look at the light and then hold the wax paper up and look at the light through the wax paper. And what is the difference that you see? These flashlights will be really easy to use to illustrate this because these are LED flashlights. And so I don't know if you can really see it. Maybe if I turn it off. There's individual light bulbs that are in there. So when you're looking at it not through the wax paper, you can see all the individual lights that are turned on. But then when you look at it, when the wax paper is held up, it just looks like a big glow of light. And it's fuzzy and you can't really see where the edges of the flashlight start and stop. And so this talks about how the light rays bend and bounce off of the wax paper, similarly to what we did earlier, where the sunlight bends off of our atmosphere and changes the shape of the sun as it's setting. There are super thick clouds that surround Venus, and so they're not dark. It's not like you can't see through them, but the visibility is only about a half a mile. And this low visibility, the book says, would result in the closing of most airports on Earth. So, just help the kids understand that what they're seeing is like looking through wax paper. You can still see me through the wax paper, but you can't really see exactly what I'm doing. And it's the same thing. That's all we're trying to illustrate with this one. So those two both are just kind of giving specific, helping solidify specific parts of the planets that are in our solar system with some of their identifying attributes. Mercury is small and is close to the sun. Venus is larger, but we can't really see much of it because it's surrounded by these really thick clouds. There are a couple of devotions in the Indescribable book that might correlate with those. One is on page 58, and it is Shine On. This is talking about the light from the sun and how it's refracted or how it's reflected by the moon, and so how we get to see the moon from Earth. And then there's also page 130, which is, this one is when you've been eclipsed. So it actually talks about a solar eclipse. And this would be a good applicable one too, if you either run out of time or you just want to have a couple of verses or concepts to tie it back to our great God and who he is and how big he is. Just to throw out there for this whole 6 weeks, our focus in science this 6 weeks is astronomy, and really for most of this cycle. But there are several pages in the Indescribable book that talk about different aspects of space. So any of these would be fine for you to bring in if you wanted to read them. And I'll give you guys a list of those with your tutor supply lists and stuff like that if anyone is interested. But that is it, week 6 of science for cycle 2. And that's our last science for this quarter.